Good morning from WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant, and we welcome you to Kentucky Newsmakers. Later, we'll hear some of Dave Baker's conversation with Governor Matt Bevin from the Sports Buzz podcast. Bevin says he's ready for the race ahead against his challenger, Andy Beshear. And we'll have a little snip of an interview with country music superstar Dolly Parton on why she's pushed a program worldwide that encourages children to read. But first, University of Kentucky President Dr. Eli Capilouto is here to talk about what's happening on campus at the state's flagship university. We hear so much about the cost of college these days, but more than 6,500 undergrad students at UK will see a slight decrease in tuition for the upcoming year. And UK will provide pay increases for faculty and staff for the 7th year in a row. As part of a $4.2 billion budget proposal that's out there, the university also doing a huge study on opioids, a major issue of our time. UK healthcare is continuing to push services out across the state, despite some uncertainty about where the country's headed on health policy. And the governor's race could mean higher education as a political football in the debates ahead. And speaking of sports, the SEC recently decided to leave it up to individual schools to decide whether alcohol could be sold at athletic events. UK is pondering that. UK President Dr. Eli Capilouto is here, and we welcome you back to Kentucky Newsmakers. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Bill. Always a delight to be with you.
Thank you. It sounds like an ambitious agenda we're going to get through here.
How much time do we have, Bill?
We'll see. But thank you again, Mr. President. College affordability is a huge issue in America. We know that graduates are often leaving school with tens of thousands of debt or more. Is your slight decrease in tuition at least some attempt to address that and lead on this nationally?
We've been working on this for the past several years. Access and affordability, top priority. In this budget, we add another $13 million to support student financial aid. These are grants or scholarships students don't have to pay back. The cost is going down for a good number of our students. Overall, the increases we've had in tuition over the last 2 years are the lowest back-to-back we've had in over 30 years. We adjusted what used to be differential cost across the different divisions of courses, lower division and upper division. So those in that division that were paying a little more, it's a flat division, they're going to have less cost. Others may realize up to 2% increase as we level that off.
What is going to happen across the country to get college costs under control?
Well, we work with families. We want to give them full information about the ways to achieve a college degree without encumbering such debt that can be crippling. We don't want this to prevent you from buying a house when you're ready for that. At the University of Kentucky, half the students that graduate with no debt. Of the ones that graduate with debt, it's about $30,000. We feel like if we can keep it at that level, that's a reasonable amount to tackle, still be able to get on with your life. But we'd like to shrink that even more. We have a program called UK Leads where we target those students to bring down their unmet financial need. That's the difference between their scholarships, grants, federal loans, and the cost of attendance. We know if we can get that down to a certain level, not only do they leave with less debt or no debt, they're more likely to graduate. And our graduation rates are going up. We've had the most successful run, I think, in our history in terms of student success.
Yeah, which is a very good trend.
Good trend.
Your budget proposal would also give raises to faculty and staff. How important is that in retaining talent on campus?
We like to say talent and infrastructure help us deliver the services we must to our students, to our patients, to all those we serve in 120 communities through our extension offices. So we've got to reward our talent. They are my heroes. The group that worked on this grant to reduce opioid deaths, they came together, worked 90 days around the clock, every weekend, 20 faculty from 6 different colleges to put together a 600-page grant. And they did this for Kentuckians. There's some pretty successful people already, fully funded. But when it came to the chance of saving lives, hundreds every year, reducing that burden across Kentucky for so many families, they put everything aside and just worked day and night. So we got to reward these people. That's just one example.
Let's talk about that example, though, because there probably is no issue that is more pressing right now in Kentucky than this opioid crisis. What will this grant allow the university to study and make some recommendations about?
Right. The federal government wanted the opportunity for somebody to demonstrate, gee, can you turn these numbers around, and how would you do it? So we came up with a plan that they thought was quite attractive. We identify the counties that have the highest prevalence. You look for some infrastructure in those counties, and then through the grant you round those off so that you can really throw the kitchen sink at this and see if you can turn those numbers around. So we'll be focusing on those high prevalence counties. We'll have a complete array of services, and I must say our strong partners, in this case, state government. The cabinet led by John Tilley and Adam Meyer have been indispensable in this. Governor Bevin did a great job in welcoming the NIH review team and making a commitment of Kentucky's sort of full heart and soul to turn these numbers around. So it's a real team effort, and we feel like we're going to show the country how you best do this.
Well, and while you're very encouraged by that targeted investment in that, Kentucky's public universities do get less support overall from the state than they did some years ago. The 2020 legislative session is coming into view. We're in the middle of a governor's race, and decisions are being made about how Kentucky will slice up its pie of its precious revenue. What will you be advocating for the state's flagship university?
Well, the state a couple of years ago adopted a performance funding formula. And it said, depending, how well you graduate students, how many you put in the STEM fields, how good are you at graduating underrepresented minorities and those from the low income groups. It's those kinds of metrics, because that can really lift Kentucky if you start moving those groups. I'm happy to say in 2 years of those 11 metrics, the University of Kentucky has exceeded what qualifies you for funding in all but one metric in 1 year. The next university has only achieved 4 out of 11, so we're doing quite well. We hope that there's more money put into this because it provides the incentives for us to get students across the finish line and get them there in a shorter amount of time and with less debt and in those fields that are important for Kentucky's future economy.
Do you think we are properly training people or educating people for the jobs that are available in Kentucky?
I feel very confident about our students. It's astounding to me the jobs that they undertake, to learn they're the ones putting a SpaceX rocket in orbit. They're the ones that are heroically teaching in our schools. They're the ones treating patients in our rural areas. We opened 2 4-year medical schools. We're going to open another one next year in northern Kentucky, and then one that we did in western Kentucky to solve the shortage of physicians in those areas. So we do what it takes. We ask for no more state funds to do that. We recognize the challenges the state has in pension and Medicaid costs and so forth. We don't see any sense in whining. Let's be resourceful. Let's try to be very efficient, save cost, and deliver a quality education. Those are our goals.
Let's talk about UK Healthcare Some, which operates the Chandler Medical Center, also has clinics and partnerships around the state. Many rural hospitals face real financial trouble right now. Do you have to be large to survive in this environment right now with healthcare as it is today, and who knows how it will be, after the next federal election cycle?
I think that's one part of it. Scale matters. Just like at a university, in the services we deliver for students, there's certain fixed costs you got to have. If you're able to do that and provide it off across a larger number of students, you're naturally more efficient. In healthcare, not only is the scale, but the more you do of something, the better you are and the higher quality. What we try to do is the tertiary quaternary care, the most sophisticated, complicated care. Send those to us where we do a lot of them. We do it well. We do it as cost efficiently as we can. Then we want to get you home to your community where you can best heal. My predecessors had one simple dream. No Kentuckian should have to leave home regardless of how sick they are. And we've been delivering on that.
There's a real effort to tell the stories of patients on social media. Former quarterback Tim Couch has, I think, 28,000 or so Twitter followers, and he is encouraging patients to tell their stories. How important is it that the university take advantage of those ambassadors who are out there?
Well, you know, we have lots of data we can share. It's been my experience that when you can add a compelling story to it, the impact is greater. So those stories are important. And the way people share them nowadays, you got to acknowledge it.
We're with Dr. Eli Capilouto, the president of the University of Kentucky. We'll have more questions for him when we come back. A little bit later, we'll be hearing from Governor Matt Bevin from a podcast done by our Dave Baker. And then Dolly Parton with a comment before we end up here on Kentucky Newsmakers. Welcome back to WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. We're delighted you're along with us today, and we're certainly glad that the president of the University of Kentucky is here with us, Dr. Eli Capilouto, sharing some of what's happening on campus and beyond. We appreciate that very much. We talked about some very encouraging things going on campus, and one thing I know that has gotten your attention this spring, you met with some student activists who were concerned about food insecurity on campus, or for them as students, and some diversity issues as well. What is your ongoing commitment to address those concerns?
Sure. Well, first of all, I welcome these opportunities to have dialogue with our students. We agree that we have the same challenges. I agree with them that our pace in overcoming all those should be greater. So we're working together to do that. In the area of food insecurity, what we wanted, and we're doing now in cooperation with students, is a more robust survey to give us complete information about how we best address this. But we didn't wait for the survey results. We opened a dining facility, $1 meat, 2 vegetables, fresh fruit, open to any and everybody who is a student on our campus. We want to address things through direct services to our students. So those are the things we're trying to do. In terms of making our campus more diverse, a sense of belonging, there are questions about how we provide financial aid, and we're addressing those, we're explaining those. I think people are going to be pleased with the information we share and what we've been trying to do. And in terms of impact, there's no university in the state that has had the ascent that we have had in the number of African American graduates. In fact, last year, for the first time in our history, we had the highest number of undergraduates who earned their degrees from the University of Kentucky who are African American. So we want to continue that progress, and working with them, we will.
Some may not fully appreciate all the research that goes on at the University of Kentucky, and that it has so many benefits for the state and the nation and beyond, but also is a financial boon to the university as well. Let's talk about some of those. The UK psychologist Thomas Whittaker is studying the mind of serial killer Ted Bundy. I mean, it's just one of those intriguing things that's going on campus.
Our faculty amaze me in terms of the curiosity they have and the questions they want to answer. I'm lifted by them. You know, I looked last weekend. China says they want to respond to our tariffs by limiting the export of rare earth elements. Well, they hold 80% of those. We have scientists in our mining engineering department who are discovering the ways to extract rare earth elements from coal. Right? There are people who say, gee, how are we going to feed the world that doubles in the next 30 or 40 years? We have interdisciplinary teams of geneticists, agronomists, engineers that could get a 20% more yield out of crop harvest, feed 1 billion more people. We have scientists that label to identify the genome of an extinct salamander from Mexico, and what can that tell us? That salamander, in their genes, somehow has the formula to regenerate arms or a severed spinal cord. Could impact Kentuckians in 20 years. But today, we have an opioid crisis, and we're addressing it.
And weather accuracy is being
That's
studied
right.
on campus
We're
right
doing
now, right?
that too.
The weather, forecasting the weather.
It has a big effect on gross domestic product. I didn't realize it till I saw some of this proposal.
You'll be serving as the president of the SEC coming up. Congratulations on that. And the SEC presidents have recently voted to allow schools to decide if they will sell alcohol at athletic venues. What factors are you weighing in making the decision on that at the University of Kentucky?
Safety and well-being of our students, our fans, all our supporters. This is not a high priority for us to rush into. Different universities are at different places about this. So what the conference did, and we're the only conference that's done this, to say, look, it is left up to the individual universities. And Mitch Barnhart will work on this for the next several months. We're in no rush to do this. But if a university is going to do this, there's certain rules and regulations you got to follow so that visiting fans, visiting teams are safe and so forth. So limits on what you could purchase, where you could purchase, who serves, all those kinds of restrictions would be in place. So I think it's a good step that the SEC decided this is something to be determined at the local level, but if you do it, you've got to use best practices.
What is your time frame? Do you have one?
No, not really.
Okay. We're in a governor's race. We have about a minute left here. You know, a lot will be said on a lot of issues. Do you fear that higher education could kind of become a football in the contest?
I hope we're of interest in the contest, and I hope people recognize what someone told me when I got here, and I'm convinced of it every day, and that is the University of Kentucky is one of the most positive forces for progress and change in the state. It deserves our support. I think it's an incredible investment. We have increased our graduates by some 20%. We've increased our research this year alone that we have to go out and compete for dollars by another 20%. Well over $350 million. It's a $700 million economic impact, creates 4,000 high-paying jobs, creates the intellectual property that you take to market in the future, economic impact there. So I'm every day astounded by the University of Kentucky, the work that goes on there, and I hope people find the way to provide us the support to make us even better.
Dr. Capilouto, thanks for coming. Appreciate it very much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Hope you'll stay with us. We're coming back in just a moment. We'll hear from Governor Matt Bevin in a podcast snip from our Dave Baker. We're back in a moment. Welcome back to Kentucky Newsmakers. Dave Baker talked with Governor Matt Bevin on his podcast, The Sports Buzz, this week. They covered a lot of topics in 52 minutes, from the pension situation to the governor's race that's now underway.
The thing that people watching this should feel good about, and the thing they should think about with respect to whoever the next governor is, do you want a governor who talks to the president, who is respected by the president and respects the president, or somebody who never gets the time of day? It doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you're on. You could be a Republican or a Democrat. You will want your governor to be friends with the president, friends with the vice president, friends with cabinet secretaries. Look how many cabinet secretaries have been here. HUD secretary, education secretary, labor secretary, energy secretary, vice president, president. They've all been here in many cases multiple times. I mean, this has never happened in Kentucky. I go to the White House on a regular basis specifically for things to the benefit of Kentucky and our companies here. When I sit down, I had an issue that involved companies here in Kentucky. I contacted Secretary Ross and then Secretary of the Interior.
Right.
And they sat down together with their staffs in the same room at the same time for 45 minutes. Think about that. I mean, how blessed we are to have that kind of a relationship. This is good for Kentucky. It's why we're seeing record investment, record jobs, and record upside progress. And I don't think the people of Kentucky want to look backwards. I really don't. But we'll find out in November.
That gives you a little bit of a sticky wicket, though, as you're trying to do things like the China thing and everything, and tariff talk. But I mean, you got to navigate it, right?
Not even a little. Because here's the thing. There are two different levels of what's going on. The president's responsibility on behalf of the nation, per the authorities given him by the Constitution, is to handle tariffs and trade and commerce at the national level. And that's what he's doing. He's up there talking president to president. That's his responsibility. My job in a federalist world and when delegation to the states is to do other things, which is talk at the subnational level. Country to country,
sure.
You know, culture to culture, really. He's doing the country to country. I'm doing cultural, company to company, person to person. This summit that we had here in Kentucky, it was like a tree falling in the woods with any of the media. You would have thought they would have been all over it. It was amazing how little. That is the largest summit that is likely to happen in 2019 between the U.S. and China. We had 400 people. We had to turn people away. And we had the ambassador from China. We had governors and vice governors from China, governors and lieutenant governors from America. We had cabinet level officials from both countries. We had businesses and banks and investors from both countries, hundreds of them. The work that got done, the things that got done, the connections that got done were phenomenal. Between us and China, we're 40% of the world's GDP. Think about that. Between us and China, 40% of all the wealth produced in the world is produced in our two countries. That's not going to change anytime in the near future. And there's no way we're not going to work this out. It's impossible. We need them economically. They need us economically. We are each stronger and better when the other is doing well and thriving and trading with us.
Sure.
So I'm confident that President Trump and President Xi and our Ambassador Lighthizer and their equivalents on the other side are going to do what needs to be done. And when they do, who's going to be out of the gate first? What state does China recognize right now as somebody that's willing to partner with them? Kentucky. I mean, it's been very clear. They invited every governor in America to come to their first ever import expo last year in Shanghai. One governor in America went. It was me. Why? Because I know this is going to be resolved. I got a degree in East Asian Studies 30 years ago. I've been studying that part of the world. I've lived in it. I've traveled in it. I know that world. It will get resolved. And when it does, Kentucky will be in the pole position. Doesn't guarantee we'll win the race, but we're going to be in the pole position with our foot on the gas, and I like our odds.
Sure.
I really do.
Absolutely. Last question. How difficult is it? A lot of people poo-poo people of faith.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't fly with
Kentucky.
me.
Which is good. People in Kentucky respect people.
But I mean, if you want to say the haters or what, how difficult is it? I mean, listen, I'm captain of the All-Sin team. If it's not for the grace of God, then I'm done. But how difficult is it in such a contentious environment to do the things that you want to do and to do them the right way? Is that fair?
Yeah, it's not. It's fair, but it's not hard. Again, I shouldn't say it's not hard. It's not complicated. It goes back, I said it a couple times earlier. It's simple. When I wake up in the morning, I don't decide am I going to do the right thing or the wrong thing. Am I going to hand out boxes of cash or not hand out boxes of cash? Am I going to buy and sell the state or not buy and sell the state? People that preceded me, people that would hope to replace me, that's how they think. It's how they operate. It's not just hypothesis, that's a fact. This is not how I operate. Mine is a simple task. And while I'm responsible to the people at the ballot box, if I run for office, I also believe, as surely as we're having this conversation, that I'm responsible to my Creator. And I truly believe I'll someday answer for what I've done with my life. And I'm far more interested in what I hear on that day than what I hear on any election day that I'll ever be a part of.
Now, you can hear Dave's interview with the governor by signing up for WKYT podcasts. And finally, a little treat for you. Country music icon Dolly Parton has done many concerts over the years in central Kentucky, including in Lexington, Richmond, and Danville. And the woman, known for hit records like Jolene and Coat of Many Colors, also has made it a focus of her life to give back. Her Imagination Library has gone worldwide, giving children books of their very own. I talked with Parton this week about some new attractions she's promoting and things she's up to in the Smokies, and also about remembering where you came from and giving back. Hats off to all you've done to economic development in that area, and then of course the reading program that you have that's now worldwide and all that. And I know recently the FBI even recognized you, and you've gotten so many awards. I remember that song Nickels and Dimes, and I always said you should have released that as a single, by the way. So it's still out there.
Well, thank you for that. Actually, it is out there. Actually, we used that in a Christmas movie.
Yeah?
My brother Floyd and I wrote that. I just lost him a few months ago. In fact, we just did a tribute to him in our museum here at the park, in the Chasing Rainbows Museum. My brother and I wrote that together, and it was in the Christmas Circle of Love Christmas movie we did on NBC. I sang a little bit of that then, but that's always been one of my favorites,
Well,
and thank you for liking that. Still not too late.
Exactly. It was always about giving back, and you have lived your life in that way, and hats off for that. It's been important to you.
Well, thank you. You seem to know a lot about me. Yes, it is, because I love what I do, and I just always wanted to sing and write my songs and be part of the big world out there, and I just wanted to be part of everything going on, and I've been really blessed, and I don't take any of that for granted. I work hard, but God's been good to me, and the fans have been good to me, and people like you that remember even notice a song like that to say what it really is about. I mean, that's really a true fan, and that touches my heart, and thank you for that.
And that is this edition of Kentucky Newsmakers. We want to thank you for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at KY Newsmakers. We have some political updates and tidbits about the Commonwealth on there. And of course, for the latest, join us for WKYT News this week, and you make it a good week ahead.